sceneggiatrice, però se la tua domanda è per la sceneggiatrice No, allora scusate, mi inserisco solo brevemente. Io volevo chiedere a Melissa se i fan devono aspettarsi dei cambiamenti rispetto al libro e qual è stata diciamo, la parte del libro, la scena del libro, chiamiamola così, più difficile da portare sullo schermo.
The hardest part of adapting the book was that the books are all taking place inside Bella's mind to a large part. So there's all these sort of interior thoughts going on that the challenge was to take those and make them exterior scenes to have them play on visually. So that was the biggest challenge to do that. Yes, I think the main objective for me in adapting the book was to take the audience on the same emotional journey that the book does, and so very important to hit the same sort of stepping stones on that journey. But a lot of the scenes in between are condensed, and there's some things, some scenes. For instance, in the book, there's a sentence or two about Harry Clearwater's heart attack. Well, that turned into quite a big action scene, as it turned out. It was something I sort of made into, gave a background to, backstory to it, and an action sequence. So it's a little bit of condensing and then inventing in various different places. Prego.
Allora, io volevo sapere dagli interpreti, secondo loro qual è il fascino di questa saga, qual è il motivo di tanto successo, quale può essere un po' il segreto dei loro personaggi. E poi avevo un po' di curiosità sul loro soggiorno in Italia, durante le riprese, quanto si sono divertiti, hanno fatto un po' di turismi, hanno visto qualcosa, ritorneranno in Toscana, hanno mangiato bene, insomma un po' di notizie sul posto.
I'll hand the first part of the question over to you guys, I think.
Well, I can't remember what was the
what makes this such a...
Oh yeah, what makes this such a huge success? I'm not entirely sure. I think it's a combination of things that have sort of been happening for many years now. This whole sort of identity crisis that I think young people have been having for a while. And then there was this introduction of what is now known as emo music, and then this whole sort of crazy sort of almost obsession with death. And then Stephanie wrote this incredible book, and it kind of seemed to fit perfectly in the time that young people needed something to sort of rely on. I guess it's almost like a Bible for them. I don't know. I mean, it's beautifully written, and obviously, you know, the actors in it, you know, Rob and Kristen and everyone, you know, they're all incredibly beautiful, so it's not a hard film to watch, you know, aesthetically. So, I don't know, I guess you'd have to read Malcolm Gladwell's Tipping Point to kind of try and understand it.
I know, from my point of view, the books are unique, you know, in the way that they handle with vampires. You know, they're very unique in the fact that, you know, we don't, like, there's vegetarians, you know, that kind of thing. You know, there's vegetarian vampires. That's different, you know. That's never been done before. And also the backstory with the werewolves, with them being native and all that kind of stuff, you know. From my point of view, being young and, you know, and all that, it's unique. And that's what I like about it. You know, it's different. And that's why I'm glad to be a part of it, because it's not the same old, you know, vampire kills human, that kind of thing, right? This time it's a vampire's human love story, and, you know, there's a lot more depth to it and a lot more, you know, like I said, it's more unique.
I was the only member of cast up here who actually got to go to Montepulciano to film the exterior Volturi scenes, which was an absolute, you know, absolute pleasure to do. It was something that I don't think any actor or anyone who was on that set will really ever get the chance to do again. What it was, just to, you know, for those of you who really know what happened, we went to Montepulciano, which is this wonderful little hilltop rustic village, about 900 years old, I believe, and it's just untouched. And, you know, if they cleared the streets, you wouldn't know which century you were in. It really was quiet place. So then you add this buzz of this huge film that's been shot, pretty much shot just basically in pickups. And this massive blockbuster film that will just, it's probably going to blow out of the water Twilight. And then on top of that, you bring 5,000 girls, fans, onto the streets. Everywhere you look, there's girls, and they're all looking for primarily probably Edward or Robert, Kristen, she'll probably do, and then a few others. But and then we had security wherever we went. So I mean, from my perspective, as someone who hasn't been in big films before, you know, walking into that was like walking into a complete other world. We had security wherever we went, and we couldn't move. And I've done nothing really. I've not been on screen before, but I was tagged to this character, and therefore I was instantly, by association, famous beyond belief in this place. And girls just screaming all over the place. It was just the craziest experience, but something that, like I said, I walk away from and cherish forever, and never get to go through again. It was wonderful. You kind of just mentioned that the level of hospitality put on by the Italians in Tuscany, and I think I've seen a couple down here as well, was just like first class. We got to enjoy the most wonderful meals, the most wonderful hospitality, and it was just a wonderful experience.
Una domanda lì, poi lì, arriviamo per tutti. Prego.
Io tre domandine per la sceneggiatrice. Una, come ha lavorato, come ha contribuito alla sceneggiatura, alla regista, che rapporto ha lei con Meyer. E poi lei ha fatto anche Twilight, la sceneggiatura. La domanda. Se l'ha fatto, voglio chiedere la differenza che ha notato tra il regista precedente Twilight, appunto Chris Weitz, e il suo rapporto con il regista, il rapporto con la scrittrice, con il regista, e poi la cultura italiana quanto è stata importante quanto nella sua sceneggiatura.
Well, my relationship with Stephanie grew. I did write Twilight. I actually wrote the 3 Twilights. And the first movie, I was much more protective of my creative process. I was afraid, Stephanie's such a big name and presence, I was afraid that I would get subsumed in that. So I was very protective, and then I realized as I got to know her, I didn't need to be at all. She's just an extremely collaborative person. So as I began to write New Moon, and even more so Eclipse, I used her as a resource a lot. She was a tremendous collaborator, and there's a lot of back and forth of getting notes from her and responding and asking her various different research questions. So Stephanie was very important in all of certainly as the movies went on. The directors are all 3 have been very different experiences. With Catherine, I had a very, very short period of time to write the first movie with Catherine Hardwicke, and so I was writing it. She was right there giving me notes after I finished an act. I'd hand it to her, get an immediate response, and a lot of back and forth. With New Moon, I actually had finished the screenplay before Chris came on board. So I sort of handed it over, and he went off and shot it, and I went off and started writing Eclipse. And then with David Slade, it's been a different experience altogether, and also collaborative in a very different way. So they've all been great experiences, but they're all 3 very different directors, and I think you'll see that on screen, who they are as people. You'll see, because you got the same cast, the same screenwriter, the same novelist, but each movie is going to have a very unique voice, I think, and that is sort of an education of what directors do, just watching that. I kept on trying to convince the studio that they needed to have the screenwriter in Italy when they were shooting. They just weren't going for it, so much to my dismay. But it was, I was mining a lot of that from the book, and it was extremely important to Stephanie that the sequences in Italy from the book were shot here in Italy, because I know there's at some point I'm sure it would have been cheaper to shoot them in LA or Vancouver, but it wouldn't have had the the authenticity. So I was very glad that, as was Stephanie, that we came here.
Una domanda lì?
Buonasera, due domande, una per l'intero